Hello, dear friends. Welcome to this program, Our Moments with God, our moments with the Word of God, our moments with the love, mercy, and compassion of God, our moments also with the holy ones of God, the saints of God. And in the Catholic Church, we are so lucky that we have hundreds and thousands of holy ones, the saints of God, who lived an exceptionally holy life, leaving a trail behind for us to follow, to be inspired, and as far as possible to come closer to God. And all that is possible when we do it, when we are aware of what is happening within us. And I invite you also to please share the videos with others and ask your friends and families to please press the like button, write your comments, and share the videos with others. Thank you very much. Yes, today, as you can see in the distance, there is that tower of the church, parish church of this place. This place is, of course, called La Bimvalde, but it reminds me of the saint of the day. On the 4th of August, the church celebrates the feast of Saint John Mary Vianney, the patron of the parish priests. And it is a very interesting life. I will come to this point of the village parish priest. He is in French known as Curé des Arts, means priest of Ars. Ars is a village in France. You know, he was born in 1786 in a small village in France near Lyons, that is in the southern part of France. And this was the time of the French Revolution, where religion was strictly controlled or almost forbidden. So he had to get education. He was baptized on the very day he was born because of the restrictions. And then, of course, he went to school but found it very difficult to learn Latin and other languages. It was very difficult for him. He was a simple guy from a very simple village. He was the fourth child of, I think, 8 children. And then he wanted to become a priest, but because he had difficulties in studies, he finally with difficulty passed his studies for priesthood. And then he was, in 1815, he became a priest. In 3 years later, the bishop appointed him in a remote village, something like this. You know, there are not many houses here as in this village. He was appointed a priest, parish priest of that place, which was completely like a dead parish, very people not practicing. On the contrary, they were away from the church, men drinking and gambling and all that. He had no extraordinary gifts of great preaching and things like that. But he was a humble priest with deep faith in the Eucharist, in his relationship with Jesus, and of course, great honor and respect for Mother Mary. So he started his parish work in a very simple way. It was not a rich parish, poor parish. See, it is also dry here. Maybe it was also dry at that time, like now. Many of the European countries are also experiencing complete dryness, fire in France and in Spain and in Greece, and things are not very good here. It was the same at that time. But he practiced his priesthood in a very humble and simple way. And the main thing about him was that he was sitting long hours in confessions. It is said that he sat in the confession sometimes like 15 to 16 hours. And the rest of the time also he spent in austerity, in doing penance, and in praying. As I said already, great honor for the Eucharist. Yes, I mentioned the other day also about the multiplication of bread, that it is connected, ultimately a foreshadowing of this Eucharist, the distribution and the breaking of bread, which I also mentioned that unfortunately many of our Protestant brothers and sisters do not value or do not know that the presence of Jesus in the Eucharist is there. Why I am mentioning that? Because you see, many of the saints, including Saint John Mary Vianney, had this great honor and respect for the Eucharist, and that's what brought him strength. Even in his weakness, even in this lonely village, he revived the faith of people, not by harangue on and very strong preaching, but simply by his life. Yes, the Lord invites you and me, like he invited St. John Mary Vianney, to honor the Eucharist, to take our nourishment, our spiritual nourishment, from the real presence of Jesus in the Eucharist. And in the Gospel, what we find today is that the Pharisees, who again were only looking at the external things, unlike John Mary Vianney, who was looking more to the internal, listened to the confessions, showed God's mercy and all. The Pharisees were only interested in external things, and they come and complain to Jesus that your disciples don't even wash their hands before they eat. See, these are external things. The Eucharist or the saintly life of John Mary Vianney take us into an internal life, an inner life of God's, where we experience God's mercy, compassion, forgiveness, particularly through the sacrament of confession. Yes, the Protestants also don't have sacraments, you know that. They don't believe in confession. They said you can confess directly to God. It's an argument, but Jesus is not present physically there to listen to you. It is through the priest, who is a representative of Christ, as John Mary Vianney was. And he spent hours and hours, and people came to him. They could have also gone directly to Jesus, couldn't they? But no, they needed a real presence of a person who brought their things to Jesus. So there are many things that we can speak about. So Jesus then told them, it is not what goes inside a man's body that makes him unclean, but what comes out of his mind, of his inside, that makes him unclean. And then he told them also about other things that bring about evil in the world. And my dear friends, if you like, you may please subscribe to this channel. Go to a village church, visit the church, pray there, and find out your faith and deepen your faith by visiting the church, praying there. And if you like, you may please subscribe to this channel. Thank you.